Greetings and welcome to Second Take. My name is Ashwin Berry. There was a time in Zimbabwe when the Constitution was introduced to us like a sacred text, leather-bound, referendum-approved, fingerprinted by the will of the people. It was 2013. We were told this document would end the era of endless presidencies, backroom amendments, and elastic interpretations of power. It was meant to be the firewall between ambition and eternity. Fast forward, it's 2026, and that same constitution is being stretched like cheap elastic in Mbare market. President Emerson Mnangagwa, the self-described constitutionalist, is in his second and final 5-year term, due to expire in 2028. But somewhere between stability, continuity, and internal party chess matches, 2028 began to look premature. So tonight we ask, is this about stability? Is this about legacy? Or is this about a political CV that cannot afford retirement? Let's begin where all Zimbabwean dramas begin, with a promise.
Explore the beauty of Namibia with our car rentals. From wide open spaces to the plains of Namibia's national parks. Enjoy the freedom of the open road. Go anywhere you want, whenever you want. We've got you covered, even in the most remote locations. Visit our website and see what we have to offer.
In 2017, when Emerson Mnangagwa replaced Robert Mugabe after a military-assisted correction of liberation history, he stood before the nation and swore an oath to uphold, obey, and defend the Constitution of Zimbabwe. Not interpret, not renovate, not reimagine, obey, uphold, defend.
I, Emerson Mnangagwa, swear that as President of the Republic of Zimbabwe, I will be faithful to Zimbabwe and obey, uphold, and defend the Constitution and all other laws of Zimbabwe.
The 2013 Constitution is not ambiguous on presidential tenure. Section 91 limits a president to 2 5-year terms. Section 3 to 8 adds a layer of protection. Amendments to term limits cannot benefit the sitting president. In other words, you may redesign the house, but you cannot extend your own lease while still inside it. Mnangagwa embraced the label constitutionalist. He wore it like a tailored suit, modern, reformist, break from the past energy. To Sky News, shortly after assuming office, he projected calm reform.
But you will be, once you're inaugurated, you will be the first president that's bound by 2 5-year terms.
Yes.
Are you willing to give a guarantee to the people of Zimbabwe that you will stick to that?
Perfectly. And I always say it, that I will obey the Constitution to the letter, the spirit of the Constitution to the letter. I will remain. If I'm elected for second term, I will do my second term, but I cannot go beyond that.
To local editors in February 2025, when pressed to clarify his departure date, he declared, "I will persuade the persuaders not to persuade me."
Mungwashi?
Mungwashi, Your Excellency. I need a bit of help here to understand you clearly. I know the whole country needs you to pronounce yourself clearly. You have said and you've restated at this point that you leave when your term ends, or you know when you will leave, the day and time. But like my colleague here said, there's still a lot of confusion. There's the 2030, people are saying you should extend your term to 2030. Can you state and pronounce your position clearly for the whole nation, for the international community, for us, so that when we write our stories, we have the proper information? What is your opinion? When are you leaving, sir?
I thought you are putting it very clearly. I'm very clear. That I have 2 terms, and these terms are very definite. And I'm so democratic. When they come to an end, I'll step aside and my party will elect my successor. That is as clear as day. Those who have other imaginations, it's a democratic society for people to dream. But facts will take the day.
Mr. Rurwa?
Yes, Your Excellency. I think you've been very clear in pronouncing yourself in that particular regard. And you've said you cannot be pushed, but you have been on record saying that the voice of the people is the voice of God. Can you be persuaded, and will you be persuaded to serve beyond 2028?
I'll persuade the persuaders not to persuade.
Zimbabwe Broadcasting Corporation celebrated Mnangagwa rules out term extension. At another editors' meeting in 2025, he was confronted again. There's been a push to amend the constitution to extend your term to 2030. This was his response.
There's been a push. A push to amend the constitution to 2030. And also there's been reports that you've had meetings with what they call affiliates of the president at the farm on the same issue. So we just want to find out from you, what is your position on the push for the 2030?
It's not imaginable that there is anybody in the country who can push me. I feel very unpushable. And very solid. And I've always said I'm a constitutionalist. My 2 terms, when they come to an end, the country and the party will move on by electing my successor. That is clear day.
Unpushable. It is a fascinating word. Zimbabweans have pushed wheelbarrows uphill. We have pushed broken cars to fuel stations. We have pushed political reform with ballots that mysteriously get tired at the counting stage. But the president, unpushable. Yet history teaches us something about leaders who describe themselves in absolutes. When someone says they cannot be pushed, you must ask, who is doing the pushing? And why is there any pushing at all? Because after the 2023 disputed election, which delivered Mnangagwa his second term, ZANU-PF did not enter a season of quiet governance. It entered a season of succession anxiety. Vice President Constantino Chiwenga loomed. Internal factions sharpened elbows. The 2028 exit door began to look like a political cliff edge. And suddenly, the Constitution became less of a sacred document and more of a policy suggestion. In October 2025, ZANU-PF Central Committee and Conference passed a resolution to pursue constitutional amendments. The language was soothing, stability, continuity, national interests. The proposal: extend the president's term by 2 years to 2030. Continuity. In Zimbabwe, continuity is the political equivalent of a miracle cure. Inflation? Continuity. Corruption allegations? Continuity. Succession war? Continuity. But continuity for whom? Because Section 328 does not speak the language of vibes. It speaks the language of legal barriers. It says you cannot change term limits and apply them to yourself. That is not continuity. That is retroactive ambition. And yet, here we are.
The bill was presented today, and we then allowed the AG to just do some legal scrubbing, and then we send it to the Speaker. The Constitution says all our bills, basically, we send them to the Speaker, who will then take it for gazetting. If it's an ordinary bill, it's 21 days gazetting before you do the first reading in Parliament. But for a constitutional bill, the Constitution says once you gazette it, you wait for 90 days before you introduce it in Parliament. So what will happen is once the Speaker is sent it for gazetting and it's in the public domain, that period will now use it to have our debates, to call upon anyone you want to interview about their views. Parliament will call for public consultations, and once all that is done, the relevant parliamentary committees will now compile their reports, and then when we introduce the bill in Parliament, because this is a constitutional bill, it doesn't need referral to the Parliamentary Legal Committee. So once we introduce it, we then start the second reading stage, where we then introduce the bill formally in Parliament, and debate will commence in Parliament. Once the second reading is done, we then go into committee, and that process, it depends on the parliamentary calendar. I cannot speak on how long it will take, but once it's gazetted, it can even take 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or 4 weeks, depending on the business of Parliament. What is it that we want to do? But basically, that's the process.
Welcome to Namibia, where adventure meets tranquility. With Enjoy, you have access to a wide range of accommodations to suit every traveler's taste and budget. Experience the finest dining and hospitality Namibia has to offer. Booking your dream accommodation is just a few clicks away with Enjoy. Join thousands of happy travelers who have trusted Enjoy for their Namibian getaway. Your gateway to unforgettable Namibian adventures. Visit us today at enjoy.my.na.
So, on February 10, 2026, Zimbabwe's cabinet approved Constitutional Amendment Bill number 3. The proposal does not merely extend presidential terms from 5 to 7. That would be too simple. It also proposes shifting the election of the president from direct popular vote to selection by parliament. If implemented, the presidency would move from the hands of millions of Zimbabweans to the arithmetic comfort of a ZANU-PF parliamentary majority. It is an elegant design. Why wrestle with ballots when you can negotiate with benches? Under this proposal, Mnangagwa's current term could stretch to 2030. A 7-year term applied to an already running clock. The Constitution says one thing, politics says another. Opposition figures and civil society actors have called it a constitutional coup. Tendai Biti has described it as a coup in motion. Activists such as Mbuso Mfuzwayo have filed constitutional court challenges. This is no longer about speeches. It is about interpretation. Because even if Parliament passes the bill and ZANU-PF's majority makes that plausible, applying it to the sitting president triggers Section 328's prohibition. It may require a referendum. It may invite judicial resistance. Zimbabwe's constitutional court is now the final chessboard. And while lawyers sharpen arguments, the public sharpens skepticism.
That we don't want to have a former president who is sitting there after they've completed their terms would simply make Zimbabwe a laughing stock. The kind of amendments that they are talking about, it is not possible to have those amendments without a referendum. There are very few small things that you can amend in the Constitution without going to a referendum. But the kind of things you're talking about, if you want to tamper with the term of office of the president or the exercise of presidential powers or the structure of the state, you cannot avoid a referendum. What is disturbing is that this very idea that you want to avoid a referendum means that they know that the proposal is not popular with the people. One would want to have a situation where you go to a referendum whenever you have an issue to do with the Constitution. I must make it clear to everyone that when we went to the referendum last time, in 2013, and a referendum in 2000, there was no constitutional provision requiring a referendum. But it was quite common sense, and the only politically sensible way of proceeding was to have a referendum, because these are issues to do with the Constitution. So we are a country that has gone through 2 referendums, and we should know better that whenever you want to do a fundamental change to the Constitution, you will have to do a referendum. But let's be clear, with the proposals that they are making, they cannot avoid a referendum. So as NCA, we are totally opposed to it. We will obviously do everything to make sure that that doesn't happen. It is wrong for any political party on its own to want to impose a constitution on the people. That constitution, whatever problems we had with the constitution-making process as NCA, but we accept that it then became a product of the people after a referendum. It can then suddenly not go back to a political party. So there's everything wrong with a political party making it public that this is their intended purpose, and that intended purpose has nothing to do with everyone, it has just to do with them. That is wrong in itself. We will actually explore simply shooting down the proposal on the mere basis that the messenger is incorrect. You have heard this issue of saying, don't shoot the messenger. But with the constitutional reform, you can even shoot the messenger. You don't want people who create an
Professor Maduku cuts through the fog with a simple observation. If you go to Kenya, South Africa, Zambia, etc., you find former presidents there. It is a devastatingly calm statement. It reminds Zimbabwe that stepping down is not a biological impossibility. It is a constitutional norm. Maduku goes further. No good president wants to die in power. He suggests leaders seek extension when their political CV reads like a police docket. Corruption allegations, nepotism, governance failures, human rights concerns, underdevelopment. This is our dilemma now at Second Take. Because when reality becomes exaggerated, how do we exaggerate it further? Because the official argument remains stability. But stability cannot mean institutional paralysis. It cannot mean rewriting electoral systems mid-cycle. And if 5-year terms are insufficient for progress, then the question becomes philosophical. If the next president has plans that need 4 more years, do we change the constitution again? 9 years? 11? Or do we simply rename the office of the president permanent? Because the constitution is not a loyalty card. You do not add years because governance requires patience. You add years because power fears departure.
I'm sure you've heard the news, and Namibia is calling. And it's time to answer with a smile. From the rolling sand dunes of Sossusvlei to the wildlife wonders of Etosha National Park, Namibia is a treasure trove of natural beauty and adventure. With Enjoy, booking the most renowned lodges is as easy as a desert breeze. Picture yourself sipping coffee on a deck, watching the sunrise. Paint the sky in hues of gold and orange. Or how about a thrilling safari, capturing memories that'll last a lifetime? Our easy-to-use website hosts the most beautiful lodges Namibia has to offer. Whether you crave luxury or a cozy hideaway, we've got you covered. So pack your bags and let's turn your dream adventure into reality. Namibia awaits, and with Enjoy, your perfect stay is just a click away.
Let us imagine 2028. The term ends, the oath spoken in 2017 echoes. Uphold, obey, defend. But between imagination and reality lies Parliament. And Parliament, under Amendment number 3, may become the presidential electorate. The move from popular vote to parliamentary selection is not merely administrative. It redefines sovereignty. It transfers the presidency from public contestation to party mathematics. It is quieter, cleaner, less messy than rallies and observers. But it also shrinks the democratic theater. Mnangagwa has been careful. He has never explicitly declared, I will leave in 2028. He has said he will serve his term. He has said he cannot be pushed. He has said persuaders will be persuaded. Careful language is political insurance. It allows retreat. It allows advance. Meanwhile, legal cases proceed. Constitutional court hearings are scheduled. Civil society mobilizes. The public debates in combis, WhatsApp groups, and university corridors. International observers watch. Investors calculate risk. And Zimbabwe stands at a constitutional fork in the road. One path, the amendment passes, survives court scrutiny, perhaps navigates a referendum, and 2030 becomes the new horizon. The other, Section 328, stands firm, and 2028 remains the constitutional sunset. The deeper question is not legal, but moral. Is leadership about extending one's timeline or strengthening institutions that outlive you? Because liberation movements across Africa have learned something uncomfortable. Revolutions end. and they age. Heroes become administrators. Administrators become incumbents. Incumbents become cautious. Caution becomes attachment, and attachment begins to resemble permanence. Yet the Constitution was designed to interrupt permanence. It's time for us to get into our heartwarming moment of the week. Yes, that was a sharp left, but before we return to constitutions being treated like reheated sadza, let's vachabiki, let's breathe. Because while some leaders are busy trying to extend their stay, a group of young Africans have already jumped to 2099, and they're stealing back the future digitally, calmly, elegantly. A new video game titled Relooted imagines a world where Western museums still refuse to return stolen African artifacts, even after the Transatlantic Returns Treaty. Yes, even in 2099, bureaucracy is undefeated. But here's where it gets beautiful. The story follows Professor Grace, grandmother, intellectual, strategist, who recruits her grandchildren, Nomali and Trevor, along with former student Etienne, to retrieve 70 sacred and cultural objects. And Nomali, she is a parkour legend. Not shouting, not tweeting, not holding a placard. She is leaping across skylines, reclaiming history. She leads a team made up of a locksmith, hacker, acrobat, and getaway driver from across the continent. No violence, no chaos, just puzzles, teamwork, athletic brilliance, and African genius. Created by South Africa's Nyamakop studio, Relooted is an Afrofuturist heist game designed for PC and consoles, targeting the African diaspora. Designers and voice actors are from Nigeria, Angola, Malawi, Ethiopia, Tanzania, and Kenya, who helped bring it to life. Have a look at the trailer for Relooted, which was released last week.
Talk to me, Cryptic.
It's in the air.
Good. Let's do this.
What's the target?
Behold, the Bangwa Queen from Cameroon.
We must return her home.
Anything else while we're there?
Ooh, that Asante gold mask would be great to have.
Okay, how do we get in?
You can go through the front door, sis, but you'll need to be quick.
Through the garage. Wednesday is garbage collection, so security is lax.
Locked. New shutters. I can handle the locks.
Look at that combo!
You're welcome.
Okay, I'll take that.
Stairwells are closed after hours. We'll need them dead.
I'm on it.
I'm in.
Have you got a surefire way out? Once the alarm is tripped, we won't have time to think.
So think ahead. Got it.
That door will close when the alarm is triggered.
Your exit route is through the construction site.
However you get here, we'll be waiting for you.
I'm ready. Let's bring it home.
Go, big sis!
It's time to get out of there.
I've almost got it.
Luckily, Africa has you on their side.
Nearly there, Nomali.
Bad guys are coming. Go time.
Run!
10 seconds left.
That thing is fast.
Move, Nomali.
Let's go!
Tonight's story was never just about Emerson Mnangagwa. It was about the elasticity of power, how far it can stretch before it snaps, and who gets to decide when enough is enough. It is about the quiet tension between swearing to defend the Constitution and subtly probing its limits. Zimbabwe does not lack words. The term limits are written. The oath was taken. The clauses are clear. What remains uncertain is whether those words are ornamental, printed for ceremony, or operational, meant to restrain ambition when it matters most. Between 2026 and 2028, Zimbabwe is not merely debating a date. It is testing a principle. And history has a long memory for all moments when a second take just wasn't enough. Good night.